what happened to Africa's most powerful faith, which was the basis for its scientific as well as a civilization that preserved nature, yet in the face of weak colonial and enslaving religions like Christianity and Islam, it never managed to repel them. Count Constantine Devon, who wrote that, just think that these people or this race of black men today, our slave, and the object of our scorn is the very race to which we owe our arts, our sciences, and even the use of speech. In saying this, we know that in Western culture, as well as Arabic culture today, Africans are portrayed as primitive because that's why they can be enslaved, dehumanized, and oppressed, and their lands taken over and renamed Middle East. Let's ask the questions and answer a number of things today. What is African faith? What are its primary goals? Which areas of growth can you look at today? And what went wrong? And how can you recover your own personal African faith? Because you need it. African faith is a broad term. It encompasses various traditional, religious, spiritual practices and a belief system that is indigenous or orthogonous to ancient Africa. The principles of African faith include spirituality and systems like metaphysics, alchemy, voodoo, astrology, numerology, symbology, cosmology, as well as calling upon the divinities. You must understand that there is an awakening that is going on today in the whole African world or melanin dominant world. If you are not yet of that group of people that are awakening, you have not been chosen to be awakened. So we want to look at Africa as regions. We know that West Africa is one of the most prominent areas where our ancestors, brothers and sisters, were taken across the ocean in slavery as well as colonial oppression. In those areas, we know that they practice voodoo, Yoruba religion, the Ifa, the Fon religion, which is also a voodoo religion, and the Dogon religion, which is based largely on astronomy. Some principles of African spirituality come out of studying the liberation of Haiti by a lot of other people, but largely by the priest or the thinker, as well as the revolutionary Duty Bokman, referred to as Bokman Duty, who was fearless, which is one quality that we need in our African leaders or our own lives. We must be fearless. We must be able to help. And he helped to spark the Haitian Revolution, which eventually led to the Independence Republic of Haiti. He was born in the region of Senegambia, present day Senegal and Gambia. These borders, we must remove them. They colonize us and keep us in paradox. And then he was taken as a slave and transported to Jamaica and then sold to a plantation in Haiti, San Domingue. He taught enslaved Africans in Haiti how to read, to write, and to understand the power of freedom. And also we must look at the Dogon faith and its priesthood and its principles, what it teaches and what it can give you, so that at the end of the day you are equipped. If you are a melanin dominant human being and you are attracted to these divinities, you are attracted to these religions, to this faith that are African, it is good for you to interact and work with them. So let's look at voodoo, which is known locally as Vodun, which originated in Dahomey, which is a spirit service kind of religion and belief which should be practiced as a fundamental system to defend yourself, but not necessarily to attack innocent people. Its fundamental principles run along the spirit that everything has a spirit, and if you connect to that spirit, you can be able to use anything for your good. Humans are spirits who are inhabiting a visible physical world. Unseen world is also populated by Iwa. These are spirit mystic, and the mysteries, as well as the invisibles, the Zanji, the divinities, including other spirits and spirits of our ancestors and the recently departed. So why have we left all this? Because there is no difference from what voodoo explains and what Christians practices, because we have been miseducated and we have also been enslaved and tricked by thinking that Jesus was nice and is love. we should never forget the Muslims. And anyone who reads the Quran and follows the Quran is supporting the Arab slave trade. No matter who is he is or she is supporting the Arab slave trade, because it is a fact that the Arabs reading the Quran, which came after our civilization was destroyed by the Arabs, is a colonial book, is not an African book. Look at this map. When we look at the principles of African faith, when you look at how our indigenous religions from 1900 have been swamped over by Islam, and we cannot allow people today to come to tell us that Islam is an African religion or Christianity is an African, or it started in Ethiopia. It didn't start anywhere. It started in Iznik in Turkey under the Roman who ruled, and it is still being run by Rome, and it's still a Roman religion. So Islam is not an African religion. It never was, and it never will be. When they want to fit themselves and say Kemet this, Kemet that, they are ignoring the Voodoo, the Yoruba, the Ifa, the Fon, and the Dogon. They are destroying and ignoring what is yours and supplanting it by their own. The principles of our faith before Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, the African religion, was based on veneration of our own ancestors. And today in West Africa, and in Southern Africa, and East Africa, and Northeast Africa, we are no longer doing that. But we are venerating Islamic ancestors and Christian saints who are disconnected from us. The principles of our African faith establish peace and civilization like this. The same pyramids that you find in ancient Kemet is the same pyramids that were built in West Africa, the Nsude pyramid in Enugu in Nigeria. So what happened to this powerful African faith? Why did it collapse? We continue to look at these religions that connect and that build up the diversity of the single African religion, like the Akan Ewe. It's a religion of people of Ghana, Ivory Coast, and it is rich in spiritual tradition. It includes veneration of the ancestors. It includes the belief of the Akan spiritual world dominated by the physical objects, Asuman, and by the Ntamafo ancestors, and Bosom, the divinities, Abosom, the divinities, and Onyame, Onyane, Onkopon, the creator who is unknown. And if you want to go deeper into this and understanding this, I want to ask you to go and look at this video by Amarukafo Adebisa on Vimeo, by Odurafo, and you can also look at the divinities, the Akan gods, and call upon them and find principles where you can use the emphasis of morality and ethics to invite them to work with you and to inspire you to rise higher in power. Let's look at how our African faith lost their power. The basis of knowing that we lost our power is that we were mentally deceived, and our brains are filled with European Christianity and white pale Arab Islamic religion. We were deceived, and when we were deceived, we actually literally and physically threw away what was in our hands, just like a man holding a gun who is told that he's holding a toy, and he believes it and throws the gun away, and then he's captured. That's exactly what happened to us. That's how we were defeated. That's how 50% of Africans are Muslims because of, as well as mental defeat, and the other 48% are Christians because of the same systems. We have a clue here. There is a king known as King Leopold, who is represented today by African pastors. All these pastors, African pastors, all of them, Gino Jennings, Pastor Chris, the late Miles Monroe, Makandiwa, P.F. Chiwenga, all of them are King Leopold's men. They are pushing King Leopold's doctrines. They think they are representing the creator of the universe, but they are representing Jesus. They are representing a European. There is no two ways about that. This is why King Leopold wrote a letter to the missionaries he was sending to Africa. This letter is very long. We are giving you where you can read all the letter in the description. He said, your knowledge of the gospel will allow you to find texts ordering and encouraging your followers to love poverty like happier are the poor because they will inherit the heaven. Our motivational false prophets today have turned that around because it benefits them. They make money through that. Instead of cutting off our limbs, as King Leopold's men did, they are cutting off our mentality and our mental connection to our ancestors and keeping us enslaved and taking a chunk of our hard-earned money as tithe to pay God. King Leopold continues to admonish them, these his men, that they must detach you from and make you disrespect everything that can affront European. So they teach European culture, they teach white weddings, they teach European burials where they say the dead know nothing. This is what they teach. All of them teach that, and they think that Jesus is God, or Jesus died for their sins or our sins, which is what King Leopold wanted, because he said they wrote the scriptures to mean what they want, to avoid that they get interested in it and make you murderers, competition and dream. And they teach us that we should not reverence our mystic system and their war fetish, so we ignore our divinities that would give us power to fight, and then we absorb and receive Jesus or Muhammad or the Quran or whatever, which makes you docile and rulable and governable and easy to control. So when you look at Southern Africa, we had Isintu Chivanu, and this Isintu Chivanu emphasize the divinities, and the chief divinity was Unkulunkulu Mwari Msiki, whom we venerate and whom we worship through libation via our ancestors, through contacting our sangomas, our healers, whom we are told today they are demons or evil or Satan. And then we connect through bravery because we have the divinities among us, and the totems connect us to the ancient ancestors that made it into the ancestral realm. But despite the diversity of all African faiths and spirituality before Christianity, Islam and Judaism, it allows us to use our own free will and initiative to revere righteous and ancestors and observe and walk within the way of life that we know is giving us righteousness. So at the end of the day, it is very clear that there is an underlying level or underlying understanding of doctrines which gives us inner truths which were obscured by doubt, planted by Christianity, Judaism and Islam, and also by our physical failure to push away our enemies. And there are 5 spiritual doctrines that run across all African faiths, no matter where you are, whether East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa. This runs there. It's regeneration, transfiguration, transubstantiation, changing yourself into another, becoming an ancestor, so that you become a coup, and the renewal and the resurrection and entering the afterlife. And we know that they knew our power because they then went in places that are holy and they locked them, like the Matopo Hills, Mabgadziba, where Cecil John Rhodes vowed to be buried so that they can nail a coffin and close our vortexes. We need this vortex. Even this president of ours, Mugabe, he refused to remove Rhodes from Matopos because he was also a Catholic, a Jesuit, initiated to follow Rhodes. So the Matopos, the legend of the Njelele Shrine, a sacred shrine in Matopo Hills, it is the abode of the deity Mali, the god or the divinity Mari, Omskabanu, also known as Mlimo, Nzimu, the Almighty. It's known as a rain-making shrine, but it's more than that, because it is a vortex for the whole of Southern Africa and Africa. So we have self-destructed through fallacious leadership. We also know of the Cushitic Hamitic mysteries, which we have concentrated a lot about in all our teachings as Marifado, where we know that ancestors are revered. We also know that we have to awaken the car inside of us, and we have to be in a mode of self-defense and the worship of the divinities. These are just a few examples of what is known as African faith. All this and beliefs, and cultural practices. But why did we fail? Because we were forced and manipulated to pick the wrong religion. And we have been practicing this wrong religion ever since. That's why we failed. We made our African faith powerless by not applying them and being easily gullible. Here's an example of how people are gullible. Jesus appeared in Kenya. A Kenyan pastor claimed that he met Jesus in some street and they brought him to Kenya. And Kenyans were excited about that. So what is the secret here? The secret to European domination or European and white pale Arab domination is not their invention of guns and gunpowder, aeroplanes, nuclear weapons. It's not even by them taking over the cradle of civilization from us. It is because they have made themselves divinities. The European is a divinity in the mind of a Christian, in the mind of a Muslim, in the mind of Hebrew Israelite. A European is a divinity. They worship God. They call him supreme. They love him and they sing about him. Listen to the songs of praise. They go to the places he is thought to live, churches, mosques, and synagogues. This is how they have done it. So they have replaced our divinities with themselves in our brains. Don't worry about their history of civilization, but they have made themselves God. European is God. Here's the proof. If you think of angels, they are all European. If you think of the devil, he looks like a melanin dominant human being. In our language, when we want to say you are a sinner or you have got sin, we say jitema. Jitema is a word which means black. Shiba means black. Umnyama means a black person. Umnyama means unlucky. To be righteous means kucheneswa, to become white. This is why you have these churches, so-called Apostolic, Zion, and others. Reading Revelation 7:9. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, from every nation and all tribes and people and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, white garments. So they wear white garments, not knowing that they are planting a god, a European god in their brain. This is how we got there. Too much maati, too much love, too much spirituality. We lacked a little bit of isfet, which is healthy. We need it today. We need a little bit of isfet, sharp isfet, and apply it in our lives with maati as dominating. If we apply 10% isfet in our lives, we'll turn everything around, because our priests and our leaders, they know how to do it. It's time to restore our African faith. Subscribe to our channel, Hamid Hebrew Ethics. Send us an email at join@myfather.com. Till we meet again, restore your African faith through your original faith that we have pointed out here and many others in the diaspora. Amen.